Welcome to Speak on Stage, and this is one of my favorite episodes. Why? Because I get to talk to a really special person. The lady we're about to meet is somebody that I met. I probably knew her for about 2 years, but I got the chance to work with her just before lockdown. So we didn't cause it, I promise you. And she's an amazing lady who I can say, if you ever wanted to turn your business from something that was generating likes to loves, then not only is she brilliant at doing this, she'll teach you a whole lot of methodology about the empathy, emotional intelligence, relationship builds you have, what you need to do to be an effective speaker. She works with individuals, she works with organizations, she's an international keynote and works with organizations all across the world. And so if I'm the only person clapping, then that's the way it is. Put your hands together now as we introduce to Speak on Stage, Monique Russell. Way, I'm the person clapping, but it doesn't matter because you're here and you're with us. How are you?
Dave, you are so incredible. Thank you for having me on the show.
It's a pleasure having you here. We've not had a chance to talk for ages, so it's always a pleasure to catch up and just everyone's just kind of just joining in our conversation anyway. So it
I
works
know.
that way. So whereabouts are you, first of all?
I am in Atlanta, Georgia,
And
but
are you
I'm
in,
originally from the beautiful Bahamas and
right?
also Nigeria.
That's a lot of moving around. Are you in lockdown as we speak?
Well, it depends on how you want to define that. I mean, I'm able to get what I need done. I'm able to move around. Stores are open in our area. Restaurants are open. Some have some restrictions, but Georgia was one of the ones that was open very early. So for us, it's been, I wouldn't say normal or back to normal, but it's not like what I hear other people experience in other parts.
So, in terms of how that works out for a lot of people, certainly in America, there's still lockdown going on. In the UK, it's a similar thing. People are kind of scared. I've been in the UAE now for best part of what 30 years, and for the last 9 months, we've been able to move around pretty much freely with social distancing and masks. What do you think the mood is like in the US at the moment? Are people just dying to get out of it, or are people just a little bit reticent? Because as somebody who's very much in the empathy world, I think there's a ton of people who can go out to play but just don't really want to yet.
Yeah. So, I mean, from what I have observed, I think that a lot of people are already at that point where they're like, you know what, we're going out, we're using our mask, we're social distancing. And then there's a whole lot of people that like, we're not doing any of that, but we're going out. So, in general, I feel that people have reached that point where it's more important for them to feel connected rather than to remain isolated.
And I found that a lot of the connections that I was able to make and a lot of the business I was able to generate was really because of the fact that in a lockdown world, I could leap onto Zoom or Meets or Teams and just connect with people. And I'm busy talking to people and doing business all around the world now. So effectively, coming out makes sense. But at the same time, coming out and still having access to around the world makes even more sense. Would you say that's about right?
Listen, that is more than right, Dave, because I mean, our world is global. And if you were not global before the pandemic, I'm pretty sure that you're global now, even if it's just in the space of networking. You know what I mean? So, I mean, me, for example, I was not in Hong Kong with any coaching clients in Hong Kong prior to this pandemic. And now I am in Hong Kong because of Zoom, thanks to Zoom. So I will just say for me, the connection virtually has been incredible. I've been able to expand my reach, especially if you have a digital presence. The good thing about this is if you already had a digital presence, it takes time for things to kind of settle in, for you to pop up in searches and things like that. And if you already had a digital presence and you were able to pivot really quickly, you could have capitalized on that. But a lot of times I see people who are they're still hesitant. They don't want to even put their picture in their profile online, knowing that this is the new way of connecting, of communicating, and so it's just going to keep them behind. So for me, I say yeah. Zoom, the virtual connections, social media, particularly LinkedIn, that's my social media of choice, has been incredible in building relationships and expanding my reach.
So we're in a position now where, as we're kind of coming out of lockdown in many places around the world, some people are a bit slow, and some places are a little bit later than others. We have two choices of what's going to happen. First of all, for the amount of people that aren't doing the distancing, aren't wearing the masks, aren't getting the vaccines, that's a whole new conversation which we won't go down that particular rabbit hole. We may never see it disappear completely, but what we will see is some more kind of calculated freedom decisions that people are going to make. For those of us who are happy to be interconnected and we want to do stuff around the world, I'm making friends with people who I might never actually meet in real life. And we've got really great relationships just because we can do this on Zoom or we can do this on all the different platforms. Do you think, from the point of view of relationships, they're as strong as they would have been? Or do you think face to face still wins overall?
There are definitely things that are different when you connect with someone in person. But at the same time, I don't feel as though you are not able to have a deep, connected, effective relationship or friendship simply because you are separated by a physical distance. I mean, the reality is, prior to the pandemic, a lot of people were meeting in person and they didn't feel connected. They were meeting in the conference room, they were meeting with their clients, they were struggling in terms of feeling heard, getting their message clear. And so the Zoom aspect or the virtual aspect is just something that I feel opened up more awareness around the gaps in connecting. You can I will give you an example. One of my very best friends is from South Africa and I haven't seen her in over 10 years, but we are on WhatsApp every day. It's literally, like an ongoing conversation every morning, every night. And we're very close, we're very connected. So I say, definitely, there are things that you can do in terms of relationship building and feeling connected that you cannot experience in person if you don't have that openness or if you don't have that awareness to realize what's causing a gap in your connection process. Just being in the presence of someone isn't going to guarantee you that you're going to have a successful connection.
And one of the things I think it took a bit of a lag time for people to start appreciating the fact that I mean I know a lot of people who wouldn't do any business on Zoom. They weren't going to go on a conference call. We'll wait it out and we'll just wait to see. And I mean, if you were still thinking like that, that disappeared a good 8 months ago. They really had to consider now that maybe business, and I think business is actually more effective. But the thing is, there is a kind of Zoom fatigue when you spend so much time working and having a conversation with somebody, it's very easy to get tired. So an average about 90 minutes worth of looking at somebody is my limit. And it's not because they're not beautiful to look at in many cases. In some cases it's not, because they end up
You're gorgeous.
looking up somebody's nose for 90 minutes is never a joy. But it's because I think there's so many subliminal cues that get sent across to you when you're talking to somebody in public in real life. So you can see the body language, the height, the vibes, and all the rest of it. You only get the visual stuff and the audio stuff when it's done digitally, which can be okay for taking some cues, but I think it's very easy to miscommunicate to people like that. And it does drain you because you're just so intense on catching what you can to see if it's an effective relationship you're building or not.
Mm, I agree. I agree to some respect in some respects because it is exhausting. You have the computer screen and the rays and the lighting and whatever else is basically shining on you. And you have this thing where you're not actually looking at the person. You're looking in the camera because you want to show that you're making eye contact. So even that throws off the actual real connection process. But at the end of the day, you really don't even need that. If you're not on video, for example, audio is the way of the day. Audio, before we had FaceTime and Zoom and virtual conference calls, all we had was the audio. If you think about the radio, all we have is the audio. And you can listen to some stories or reports and you can be totally intrigued just by your voice. And so that's what I always tell people to consider. Think about the way your tone is coming across because there's so many things that you're going to miss, so many things that you may misinterpret, But if you are practicing effective communication skills, you're going to stay in that space of curiosity. And if there's something that you feel is being misconstrued, you're going to be cautious and lean in and find out for sure. Okay, well, what did you mean? What did you mean? What did you mean by that? Are you talking about X or are you talking about Y? So really being open and giving yourself and giving the other person grace and compassion. Nobody's perfect, nobody's looking for perfection. And so just having those types of awareness and knowing that before you get on that call, that virtual call, if you are fatigued, maybe you don't turn on your video. Maybe you take it outside where you can get into nature, or you can put your feet in the grass or something like that. So it's really about what energy are you bringing from your call to call to call to call that may interrupt or interfere that connection process.
I agree with you completely. And one of the things is, there's whole new protocols about digital stagecraft and digital communications. Like the fact that if you got a call with somebody, it's the first time you've met them, and they don't have their camera on, it feels like you're talking to Darth Vader. It feels like they're hiding something from you, and they're very suspect. I had a call yesterday with a client or potential client, and they wouldn't open up their camera. Oh no, I prefer just to talk if that's okay. So instantly there's a disconnect because I'm on and they can observe everything that comes from me. And then they started asking very, very personal questions, which, I wasn't really ready to answer, and I felt they were very intrusive. And I would have been more open to answer those questions if I could see who I'm dealing with. Now, that would never happen in a normal face to face meeting, first of all, because you see the person, and so you can weigh up what that's actually making as an impact. I mean, the person I was talking to could have been writing anything down, all the rest of it. It was just wrong. So there's loads of new things, but I mean, we could go down the route of talking about fake news and also the ability to fake what somebody looks like by having an app that makes my face superimposing Donald Trump onto me. So the same voice would. Let's not go there either. Let's talk about
Oh
who
my
you are and
gosh.
what you do, because I can see us going down a rabbit
Oh
hole,
my
and
gosh.
I
Oh
don't
my
want to go
gosh. But
there.
wait, I want to say something that what you said about the etiquette, like, the virtual conference etiquette. Like there are certain things that, if you are meeting for the first time, perhaps you want to keep your camera on. If the other person has their camera off, maybe you mimic the same thing. You equal the level playing field. And so keeping in mind that there's more than one way to connect in the virtual space. I think that this is something that everyone who's going into any meeting should keep in mind. You really don't know. Instead of making up a story about what they could be doing, make sure that that story that you make up is one that actually is positive for you, because you never know what people have going on. So I say, just if you're going to make up a story, think that, guess what, they're not in a place where they can show it. Maybe they're tired, maybe they're exhausted or whatever have you. But just think first about the most positive outcome. And when you're doing the etiquette, I would rather you not come on the screen if you are just not unkept and not, ready to meet, as opposed to turning off your camera. So just some minor etiquette protocol. I think those are the things that we have to consider.
Well, I agree with you and I disagree with you. I've just got to be honest. If you're not going to put your camera on, don't bother talking to me. I'd rather have that going on than anything else, because I think that we could easily do a different way of communication. But if there is a disconnect, it's like sitting in front of somebody and they want to face the wall rather than look at you. That's what it feels like. But I understand where you're coming
No,
from with this.
the
It is.
disconnect
It
is in
is.
your mind. It's a mind, it's a mental thing. It's also to and you know what? I'm also thinking about what's different in the virtual space. I don't know if you've had this happen to you, but I've gone on calls where automatically it's being recorded. And I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, so what is the protocol here? What is the purpose of this recording? Oh, I just want to take notes. But guess what? If we were in person and we were meeting at the table and you simply pulled out your recorder and started recording, I don't really think that would fly well.
Yeah, but many
So
people do that anyway and just don't tell you. They put their phone on record, and before you come in, it's already started taking notes of everything that happened in that meeting. And we already know from experiences about politicians not going there again that many conversations are recorded that most people don't know are going on. So I think that that
they
that
don't.
ship has sailed. I think it's
I
it's
don't.
it's a given that if you're going to be with anybody and is there any kind of business relationship involved in it, you should always watch your P's and Q's until you can say off the record. And even so, in that case, you still need to be ultra careful because you never know what's recording at any given point, even like this. So I could, for instance,
Yes. Are we
if
recording? Are we recording, Dave?
no, of course we're not. But if I was recording,
No, we're
say
not.
on Zoom, I could have it pop up so you can see it says Zoom, or because I'm working on, for instance, I use Apple products, I can record it from QuickTime. You'd never know I was recording with screens, and it wouldn't show up on Zoom, so I could quite as easily get it without asking or not. So I think that as soon as
Ooh.
you're in front of a camera or any digital device, it's there anyway. But what I want to do is I want to talk about because here we are talking about different levels of communication. You teach people, you teach organizations how to go from likes to loves. So effectively, if they're doing okay in social media and they're getting quite a bit of attention and it's all right, and you turn it into a real devotion where you get that deep relationship with clients, and that's what people can monetize. So, with that whole
Yes,
process,
exactly.
how do
So,
you do
I
that?
mean, when we are in that like status, we're getting some attention, but we're not really getting a deeper relationship. So, if you think about it on social media, you have a lot of people who are doing these automatic or auto. Robotic campaigns where they're sending out mass connections and they're trying to get a high number of connections or followers. Well, the thing is, that approach is not at a deep level. It's very surface and it can turn people off. It can actually damage your reputation.
So, Monique, the biggest challenge I find with many people is the fact that because we've been in lockdown for such a long time, obviously, we've got to deal with the depression and anxiety and loneliness that many people have, and the financial insecurity that probably is more heightened now than ever before. But at the same time, you're connected more than you have been to anyone around the world. So, to get connected and to be more impactful because there's 7+ billion people you can now do business with. It's not location driven the way it was in the same way. Do you need to grow your brand, and how do you do that without growing your ego to the point where you become insufferable at the same time? So it's like almost like that influencer thing where you're seen by many people, you're liked by many people, but some people can't stand you because they seem like you're full of yourself. Not you, you're
Mm.
lovely, probably me, but you know the point I'm making.
Yeah. So I just say, you know what? You don't have to be an influencer, but we are all influencing people every single day. And I think people are tired of the big numbers. They've gone into the nano influencer. So as long as you can create your message that attracts your community, your tribe, then you're going to be on the right path. You don't want to get too focused on just accumulating numbers and accumulating likes and accumulating followers because at the end of the day, you're not going to be able to service everyone. You want to make sure that you have a really strong strategy. And if you want to be or consider yourself to be a global professional, you absolutely have to strengthen your awareness in cultural sensitivity. You're dealing with a whole lot of different cultures. And if you feel as though the only way to do business is leading with your culture as the dominant culture, you'll find that it's going to be a very hard um, climb. It's going to be a very hard experience for you to connect with people. So that's where empathy and that's where understanding and that's where self-awareness comes in really, really big because you're going to make mistakes, you're going to make gaffes, but you have to remain open to understanding that there are different ways that people work and do business all around the world. With that mindset, you will grow your brand. You will grow your brand, you will make an impact, you'll have a fulfilling life. If you focus just on numbers, and a lot of people are attracted to those big followings, at the end of the day, you're going to take this mindset or look at yourself and say, okay, did I make the decision to connect with this person simply because the metrics looked good? As opposed to, can they deliver what I really need? Those are the types of questions you want to ask yourself. Can they deliver what I need? Is it just about them shouting and beating their chest and making noise about how great they are? Where's the evidence? Where's the proof? You want to really take a good look at the outcomes of what someone is saying that they're able to do for you.
I agree with that completely, and I have to say that if we're talking about business on a global scale, being a Brit and you're an American, we haven't got a very good track record of global empathy, to be honest with you. And certainly from being based in Dubai for such a long time, I always find that the biggest challenge is when you do business with somebody who comes from overseas to Dubai, they want to tell you how business should be done. But Dubai's got its own flavor, it's got its own ecosystem, it's got its own heritage of how things should be done. I think it's a real case as we get a smaller globe to play with, you just have to be extra careful of those sensitivities. Now, here's the thing
Absolutely.
wanted to ask you because you do stuff with companies all around the world. You're on boards of directors in many different organizations, and you've got a book on Amazon, which I'm really intrigued. I want to read. To be honest with you, I don't know how to get access to it, but I'd love to get access to it. Here's the thing: before we do that, what I'm going to need you to do is press. No, you don't. I've got it here. Wrong button. Haha. There you are. See, I knew I had it. I was getting confused. See, I was just thinking, where's that book gone? Here is on Amazon, Intentional Motherhood. Who said it would be easy? Tell us about the book.
Yeah, the book is really walking us through the aspects of embracing the motherhood identity. Really, it's a book for anyone, but it's written for moms. And it's written for moms, helping them to parent from love and not fear. We know we're in a fear-based, fear-driven world, but the book walks us through that self-awareness. There are 8 chapters in the book. The first chapter is all about your understanding that who said it would be easy. Chapter 2 is about it's not about age, it's about identity. Chapter 3 is the identity of a mother. Chapter 4 is a woman's likes versus a woman's loves. How we behave when we like ourselves, when we like our partners, when we like our kids, versus when we love ourselves, our partners, our kids. It's a big difference. It's not external. The chapter 5 is about the working mother. Chapter 6 is about apologizing to your kids. Chapter 7 is about the egoful father, and chapter 8 is about intentional conversations.
Wow. Well, there's so much to take in there. Now, here's a big problem that I find, and I love. I'm going to read your book. I haven't had a chance to read it yet, but dads and men are having a really hard time with the pandemic because we'd never admit it because we don't know how to admit it. And we don't have the skills to be able to be as honest or understand what's really going on. It's it's a big problem because I know that in many cases, if a woman's upset, she'll cry and she can let off steam and she can talk to her friends and they can get together and they can use empathy and they can create a relationship and a nurturing and helping environment. For men, it's very different. When a man's upset about something, it's typical for the man just to turn around and say, I'm not happy. If you do it, in which case your mates will say, right, just grab a beer, pull yourself together, don't worry about it, you'll be fine. Because nobody's got the words to be able to deal with this. And so that's a huge problem, don't you think?
Yes, and I will also say that it's a conditioning. It's a societal thing as well. Women, believe it or not, do have difficult time expressing themselves. It's about the environment that we've been raised in. It's about the awareness that we have. It's about the skills and the tools that are developed within us and around us. Now, of course, men, I have men in my practice, although 80% of my clients are women. I do work with men. And the men that I've had the honor and privilege to work with, I'll tell you that the conditions and the concerns are the same. They're the same. They're the same in terms of wanting to be understood, wanting to be connected, having fear, not asking for what you truly want, and which universal is not being able to have difficult conversations. I think society definitely reinforces the male, patriarchal, not expressive type of communication. But again, it all depends on your environment, what you were exposed to, your awareness, how you were raised. I've interviewed several men on my podcast, men who are in environments that are traditionally male dominated, one where it's patriarchy is in the constitution of their country. And you hear this man speak and you're like, oh my God, where did you get this self-awareness and this empathy for others from? So again, it's not just something based on gender, although predominantly men do are they are conditioned to not express themselves and not have that external emotion showing on their face or showing in their demeanor. But ultimately, it's really about getting to know yourself. Um, for women in my book, the chapter I wrote on the egoful father, a lot of times men want to connect, but they don't know how. And so it's a myth for you to say, you know what? They just don't want to have a relationship. They don't want to express themselves. I think a lot of men really want to have a connection, but they don't know how. And so, as intentional moms, intentional women, you also have to be aware of how to navigate among these relationships with the men that are driving with their ego in your workplace, in your homes, in your families. If you're waiting for someone to change just on their own, you may be waiting forever.
Wow. And with what you talked about with your book, I wanted to just, are our children really messed up beyond all belief now from having been in lockdown? You just talked about men there. Just talked about the challenges facing men and the challenges facing women. But at least as a parent, we have had many years outside lockdown to have a reference point for what life should be like. For kids who are growing up and have just been through this incredible experience now, incredibly bad experience, that distancing from friends might be something that scars for a generation. As a parent, what would you say the best thing is for us to be able to get our kids back on track as soon as possible? Because it is a worry for parents all around the world.
Yeah, it is. And I would say, man, especially for children who are the only child and they haven't had any type of interaction except through Zoom or through the screen. It's been a really, really difficult time. And I would say, just give yourself some grace. Give yourself grace. Be patient. Be gentle with yourself. Be gentle with your kids. At the end of the day, we as human beings are very resilient. And so if we can take day by day positive mindsets to encourage our children to help them reintegrate back into the connection point. I know for my son, for example, it's very important for him to feel connected, to have those connections. And so being able to connect with his friends online is something that I fully support. I know a lot of parents feel like, oh, they're on the computer a lot. And I used to feel that way too. But when you understand that these are the ways that they connect with each other,
The
this is
only
the
way.
only outlet that they have, then I would encourage parents to be a bit more relaxed. If we look at the history, when there was war and famine and all of those different tragedies that we experience, over time it took time, and it's still taking time for children who were growing up in those areas during those periods of history to really come to an awareness or grips of sense of self, because that's what shaped their early childhood. So for a lot of the younger kids growing up, this pandemic, this COVID-19 is one of their historical moments happening in time that they will remember. So I just encourage everyone, to really be gentle, be very patient with both yourself and with your children, and then just take it one day at a time.
Easier said than done, but we don't have a lot of choice, so we have to make sure it works in some way, shape, or form. So with that, I'd like to be able to share with people how they can connect with you. If we go now to your website, this is Clear Communication Solutions, clearcommunicationsolutions.com. And from there, you're able to find out more about who you are and what you do, and all the different training skills that you do. Who is it that you work with predominantly? Is it with women's groups? Is it with individuals? Or are you open to working with everybody?
Yeah, predominantly I work with women organizations, women groups, and women who are in their business owners, and also women who are in their corporate leadership roles. In the corporate space, I'm working with employee resource groups right now. Women employee resource groups, Black employee resource groups, bringing in communication skills development, support, facilitating conversations in those areas.
And with that, who's your ideal client? Who should be connecting with you? Because I know you do stuff. Well, you do a lot of stuff online around the world. Nobody's traveling on planes, trains, and automobiles at the moment. But for an organization is wondering, right? I love the idea of going from likes to loves. Um, who should those ideal people be to be the right set of clients to contact you?
So, organizations that are really open to and supporting their women leaders right now in the workplace and their moms, their parents in the workplace, these are perfect, ideal clients for me. Women right now, you saw the reports about how many have been leaving the workforce because of the parenting demands and life demands. And so, organizations in the tech space, organizations in the financial world, organizations in healthcare that are seeking to empower their women leaders and to empower their moms at work. These are ideal clients. We work on confidence building, we work on presentation skills, we work on digital presence and relevance, and making sure that they're able to have their messaging very clear and very tight as they move up in their leadership roles. Business owners, those women who are business owners, have been in their business for 3 or more years, and they are looking to use public speaking as a way to grow their visibility and their credibility and their impact. And they also want to develop global networking relationships. This is the space for them. These are the women that I am serving and that I am seeking to serve.
Fantastic. And for those people who want to connect with you, you should go to bookmoniquerussell.com, which is this website here. And there's you on stage looking glamorous in front of lots of different people. There you go. And it's got some of the sponsors, people you've worked with, all about who you are and what you do, and some great testimonials from clients as well. And that looks spectacular. So, with that, oh, look at all the stars. Look at that. Who we got there? That's my old friend Les Brown. We've had a few conversations about Les, love him to bits, and a few other celebrities in those pictures as well. Brilliant. And are you on the cover of Mary Henderson's Authority 5.0? So we get connect with you through book. That's executivecoaching.com, but you can get you on bookmoniquerussell.com as well, yeah?
Yes, and you can also hit me up on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn
Yep.
every week. You can hit me up on LinkedIn. That's probably the fastest way or most effective way to reach me. So,
Fantastic.
yeah,
And of course,
linkedin.com.
we talk on a regular basis, and we talk on LinkedIn on a regular basis as well. And I feel so close to you, even though we're miles away. And we've only met once in Dubai,
I know, once
but
in person,
in person, but we
once in
chat.
person, but many times virtually.
I've got to say that of all the people I've worked with, you're one of the most amazing um, early adopters of new stuff. You embrace it, you throw yourself into it, you jump and grow wings on the way down, which is my own philosophy for being able to do stuff. And now you can talk and you can coach and you can mentor and you can help anybody around the world. And you do such a brilliant job of doing it. It's a fantastic experience working with you. So well done to you, and I wish you all the very best for the future as well.
Thank you, Dave. It's been an awesome experience, and I highly, highly appreciate everything that we have done, especially the extraction of my signature message, which is likes to loves.
That is true. I wasn't going to mention it, but we did work on that at some point together. And there we
Yeah,
go.
this was my signature speech. Yes.
You're one of my favorite clients, students, friends, a sister from another mother, wherever we want to look at. But I always enjoy connecting with you, and it just brings me joy to see your success. Monique, thanks for joining us on Speak on Stage. Look forward to catching up with you again soon. I'll see you on LinkedIn, and all the very best for the future.
Thanks, Dave.
Brilliant. So, with that, you've met Monique Russell, connect with her online, see all the things that she does, See the websites, everything is in the text here on the video, and we've got some more incredible guests coming up. Love your thoughts, love your comments. Remember to share and subscribe, and I'll catch you next time on Speak on Stage.